It is 8:04, so we are going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to Evergreen BI Care Coordination Training. I am Lisa Karth. I'm with FEI Systems, and I'm going to present and introduce you to Evergreen. I'm really excited about that opportunity. I love this system. Behind the scenes, I have Jacqueline. I call her Jack. She is manning the Q&A, or she's monitoring, I guess I should say, the Q&A. So I want to tell you about what we're covering today. We're going to do an introduction to Evergreen. We're going to talk about the level of care, which is where your workflow starts many times. We're then going to move into the application and reconsideration packet. And packets, I know, are a new concept for you. And packets essentially bundle forms together. We're going to move into the person-centered plan and the service implementation plan. This is where we're going to spend the bulk of our time together. There is the HCBS rights modification addendum that I'm going to show you. That's built into the PCP. We'll then also go over the BI classification reclassification packet and the assistive technology form. And then lastly, we'll talk about your next steps. There's a number of microlearnings out there that hopefully you've had the opportunity to check out and enjoy. They're very short, so if you haven't checked these out, please do so. The search microlearning introduces you to Evergreen and goes through what it says, the search. For some, it's searching for persons. For others, it might be staff, locations, or organizations. And it also touches just a little bit on the dashboards. Dashboards have their own microlearning. And there is your dashboard, which in the system is called My Dashboard, as well as the person dashboard. The person record is where your demographic and personal information on the person is stored. And so as information is collected, it's added to the person record. And as we go through the day, you're going to see how information feeds from that into various forms. There is a health information microlearning because you're going to collect health information on the person. And when you input it, you're going to input it once into the health information section of the system. Queries and notifications are important tools. You're going to hear me refer to notifications throughout our time together. Notifications are alerts, and queries are filters. They kind of look a little bit like reports, but basically these are filters that help you understand and identify where someone is in the workflow. There's a microlearning on forms, letters, and progress notes. So within your progress notes, you'll want to take a look at that because it's changed just a little bit. I believe there's more categories for you. We're going to spend a lot of time adding and editing forms. And then this microlearning also talks about letters. Lastly, there is the attachments microlearning. And this talks about adding documents to either the person record or to a form. So if you haven't had an opportunity, please check those out. Or even if you had and would like to review them. All right, questions. This is a listen-only demonstration, and some of you are going to have questions as we go through the demonstration. So you're going to send your questions using the Q&A feature in Zoom. On your Zoom toolbar, this is the third icon from the left that says Q&A. And you're going to type your question into that. Now, Leslie Miska, who is the Information Services Manager and manager of the Evergreen Initiative, wanted to be here today, but she was pulled away for an urgent matter. Even so, put your business process or even system questions into that Q&A. Jack is back there. She's vigilantly typing them into an email for Leslie to ensure she gets them. And Leslie has done an amazing job. She is so committed to getting you the answers to your various questions. I also want to let you know that in January, there will be a business process training. And Leslie would encourage you to register and attend. I encourage you to do the same. You may think you have all of your questions answered. For me, when I've had the opportunity to attend something like that, and I've done so, I have found somebody else has had a great question that has really helped me out. So, all of that said, this is a technical training. We focus exclusively on the basic navigation of Evergreen. I know the system. I'm not familiar with your business processes. I'm here to teach you the system. The last thing I want to add is that at the very end, I'm going to ask you to do a course evaluation. And some of our course evaluations have said too many breaks. Some have said too few breaks. Excuse me. I thought I might take a break around the hour-and-a-half mark, perhaps a little earlier. If you need a break, put something in the chat, please. And Jack is going to interrupt me to let me know. Okay. I don't want you to sit there saying, oh, I wish Lisa would give us a break. Please let me know. I want to support you as you attend this training. All right, enough of that housekeeping type stuff. Let's go into Evergreen. There are two areas of Evergreen. So think of Evergreen like an umbrella. And one side of Evergreen is the person record. And this is where a lot of essentially all of the care coordination occurs. The other side is the Adult Protective Services side. This is your APS reports. Now, within Evergreen, when you hear someone say Evergreen, they are referring to the side with the person record and the care coordination. Adult Protective Services, if they are referring to that side of Evergreen, it's referred to as APS reports or might be shortened to APS. Now, there are some what I call oohs and ahs, some great things that are built into Evergreen to help make your job a little easier for you. Now, one of them is help features. And, you're used to seeing a help button or a help screen in so many different applications you've been in. Well, there's help features built in throughout the system. Excuse me. Part of it comes in little messages. Part of it is the Help Center, which has training tools and manuals. And you certainly have your microlearning videos. You're going to be able to reset your password. You have that power. And you're going to be able to upload attachments to the person record for some of the forms. And part of it might be, well, why is that such a big deal? Well, the reason it's a big deal is because you're collecting all the information for the person in one place. So you'll be able in the future to access the attachment, excuse me, in the form or in another area of Evergreen. You're going to have the ability to have some very specific custom prints. An example of this is the PCP person print. And, these are things you haven't had before. They're tools to help you out. You're going to be able to run the queries and various reports. They're available to you at any time. There's an enhanced person record with centralized data capture. Essentially, all of the information on the person is going to be captured in one area. Might be the history section of the person's record, perhaps health information, or maybe even just the person record, their demographic information. But once it's captured, it flows into forms if it's part of the form. Now, you will also see that there's common data within forms. So within that flowing of information from, for example, the person record into the form, you don't have to retype it. Even something as simple as typing in your name, for the most part, you aren't going to need to do that. Evergreen knows you're working in the system. It's going to automatically fill that in. You're going to have electronic signatures. I think those are so cool, and I'm excited to show you those. You're going to be charting the life course domain structure of the history in the PCP. So that's going to go into your PCP. It's captured in the system, flows into your PCP. And then there's going to be forms you can complete offline. We are not going to be going into that today. And the reason for that is it's taking forms offline. And if I go to demonstrate that, I have to go offline, which serves no purpose. Instead, we are giving you what's called a SMART guide. It's essentially a job aid or a reference tool. So it takes you step by step through that process of accessing and getting forms ready to go offline, how to work with them offline, and then bring them back online. And then lastly, I want to let you know that Evergreen is tablet and laptop compatible. As we go through the day, we're going to be using Chrome as our browser. That is the recommended browser. The life cycle of managed care. And I wanted to show this to you because Evergreen touches every single element of this. It's a very comprehensive system. So it starts when somebody indicates they're interested in services or supports. And it may be the person or it may be a family member. There's then your intake process and your assessment process, as well as reassessment on an annual basis. Once that assessment is done, then it comes time for the individual support plan. And this is where you're going to determine, just like you do today, your strategy on the services and supports the person will receive to help them live their best possible life. From that is going to come the prior authorization. This is also sometimes referred to as a service authorization. It's basically the agreement and the approval to start providing the services. Sometimes people have asked me in the past, can a provider start offering services before that prior authorization is generated? And they cannot. You have to wait for that prior authorization. Then, of course, from that, we move into service delivery. So providers are working with the person, they're delivering services, and of course, they want payment. Well, they submit their claims, whatever process they use today, and it's going to go through the MIMS processing. When MIMS approves and pays the claim, the utilization is tracked in Evergreen. So that I think is very cool. Eventually, there's going to come a time to close the case. Perhaps the person no longer needs services. Perhaps they've moved out of the area or out of the state, or perhaps they passed away. And then reporting has one little spoke here, but it really applies to all these different sections. It's not just in that one little area. It can be helpful to know and understand how Evergreen is organized. It helps with navigation of the system. We start at the very top with the organization, and this is who you work for. And for our external users, such as MainCare and other contracted providers, maybe just an example, Disability Rights Maine, it's the parent or top level agency. For internal users, it's ODES or state staff. Your location is where you physically work, and it's always underneath the organization. So it's where you work or you dispatch from or conduct your work under. Some of us are still working remotely. Now, for the state staff, this is your district office or central office. We then move into the system user, and that's you. And you are assigned to one or more locations. And then in addition to that, you're assigned to persons, and that gives you access to all of their information. And lastly, we have the person. You've been hearing me say that term throughout our introduction and our beginning up to this point. That, you know, that is the client or member. And it's the person needing services and supports. As we move forward, I'm going to refer to this as the person. That's the terminology in Evergreen. I want to show you how to log into Evergreen. So just like any other application, you need a URL or the web address. You'll have a username and a password. You're going to enter these. Now on the screenshot, this says username or email. You cannot use your email as your username. It's only going to be a username. So you enter that, and then you're going to enter your password. And once you click login, you're going to be brought to this acknowledge screen. Basically, you're going to acknowledge you are an authorized user. Now, I also want to forget, I started to say, I also want to forget, but actually, I want to tell you about the forgot password link. So this is here. It's available to you at any time should you need to reset your password. And like any other password reset, when you click on that, you're going to get a screen that asks for your email address. And after you input that, you will get an email back that'll give you instructions on how to reset your password. Now, one thing for training, please do not click that button. Please do not click that link. And the reason for that is we have a lot of people using the same login, the same password. If you happen to change it, others can't get into the system. So they're going to wind up calling Leslie. I can't get in. I can't get in. A little bit panicked over that. Leslie in turn is going to call me, and I'm going to reset it back to what it was. So please just, while in training, ignore that button. Now, once you get logged in, if you work for multiple organizations or multiple locations, you will be completing what we call this context screen. And here you have to tell Evergreen what organization that you're working under. And once you've identified the organization, you're then going to select the location. And you have to have your own profile in the organization and in the location. So Evergreen is not going to give you the choice of everything. Evergreen knows the organizations and or locations you work under. And you have to tell it because information is not shared across organizations and locations, information about the person. So there's also a staff member selection here. So that's used in the event that a staff member goes on vacation or they're taking an extended leave. Jack is going to France for 3 weeks. I need to make sure there's someone covering her work. So I'm going to assign John to take over for her. John is going to tell Evergreen whenever he is working on her behalf. That won't come up that often, but I wanted to let you know why that's here. We have my dashboard, which this is your dashboard, of course. And of course, the main part of it is the tiles. Now, Evergreen is a role-based access. And what that means is that you have access to what you need to do your job. So when you go live with Evergreen, your screens may look a little bit different because in training, we've given you access to so much more because we want you to be able to go through entire workflows. Upon go live, that broad access will not occur. You will have access just to what you need to complete the actions and tasks required of your role. I do want to point out up this top white bar. In the upper left corner is the Evergreen logo. Click on that. It returns you to this home page at any time. I also want to mention this, you may have heard it called the top level persistent menu. You're going to hear me refer to it as the navigation header. The microlearnings refer to it as the navigation header. So that's referring to this top white bar. Now there is the person search. And so when you're doing a search in Evergreen, and the search is immediately to the right of the Evergreen logo, there's a drop down where you have to tell Evergreen what it is you're searching for. And the default is persons. So, because that's what most of the searches are. Once you have that, you would input the person's name. Now, just to let you know, if you are ever searching on something else, at some point, you are going to search and you are not going to get any results back. It's wait a minute, what's going on here? Something's up with the system. It's not. What I want you to do then is take a step back, take a deep breath, and read your screen. Because what happened in that instance, 99% of the time, is that the category was not changed. And the reason I know you will do that if you are ever searching for a different category is that I do that. And I still do that at times. And I have been working in the system for roughly a year. We all get focused on what we're doing. So once you hit enter, you get your search results. And from here, I would click on this to open the person record. I want to show you how you are going to access your person, because you're going to be assigned a person to use to play in the sandbox. And the sandbox is basically a training environment where you can go in and play and test out the system and practice. So for you to locate your person, you're going to come over here to the advanced search icon, and that's the magnifying glass with the plus sign in it. And when you click on that, it opens up the advanced search screen. You're going to input your person's first name, and it's going to be BI Care Coordination as the first name. And the last name is person with a number to it, in this case 2. And once you have that input, you're going to click search. And that is going to take you to all the results that include person 2. So here you can see there's a BI care coordination, person 2, there's a person 20. It met the same criteria. In that instance, if there's a lot of items there, you can click this arrow and it will put the numbers, for the most part, in numerical order. And you're also going to click on this to open your person's record. Here's the person's record, and it defaults to the person dashboard. And you can see this looks so much like your dashboard, but it does have different information in it. This information is about the person, just this particular person. So I want to show you what this looks like in the system. And I'm going to do my login. And people will ask, well, how did you get the username? How did you get the person name? It's basically driven by the course name. I'm identifying my password and clicking login. You don't have to remember this stuff. If you haven't received it, you will be getting a packet that gives you your login information. It's going to give you your assigned person, and it's going to give you some exercises. So we're providing you with that information. I don't have an expectation that you remember the specifics from this training. So I'm going to go ahead and click acknowledge because I am an authorized user. And here's where I have to select my organization. For us, it's always going to be Evergreen Training. The location, we're using Baxter Foundation. And the staff member, we are working on behalf of ourselves. And I click login. And so here is that home page, and I'm in my dashboard. Again, reminder, click on that Evergreen logo to return to this screen. You can see how my cursor is a pointer arrow. Anytime you can click on something, it turns to a pointing finger. We have the search here, and I'm going to use the advanced search because, again, I want to show you how it works for you all. And I'm going to input BI care coordinate. And I have that in, and I'm going to click search. Well, there's only one person, so I would click to open that record. For our purposes, I'm going to use a different person. I'm going to use Evelyn Hugo. And here's Evelyn's record. So I'm going to click to open it up. Here's her dashboard. There's the top ribbon or banner that tells me I'm in Evelyn's record. This person ID is assigned by Evergreen. It cannot be changed. We have the left navigation menu. And I'm not going to go into any depth on all of these. I do just briefly want to remind you what they are. There's the person summary, and this is a collection of information from different areas of the system to give you a comprehensive view. There's the person record, and this is that demographic and personal information. There are a lot of different categories of information. So on this right side, there is this toggle button. I'm going to click on this to open up the right menu, because this is going to allow me, if I click on a different topic, it's going to immediately access it. Or I can scroll up or down. Now you can see if something can be edited, my cursor turns into that pointer finger, and I have the pencil icon, or to delete something, I can put it in the trash can. I also, for all of these, If information can be added, new information, there's an add button in that lower right. There's the health information. This is broken out into tabs to make it really easy for you to add and view information. There's history, which right now for Evelyn, we don't have any. And when adding a history, these are always associated with one of your domains. And you select a domain, and then you can select the type and input your notes. There's the progress notes here. Check out the microlearning. And there's assignments here, which identifies what staff member or what location the person is assigned to, as well as staff member, and then the forms and the plans. This is where we're going to spend the bulk of our time today. So I want to come back into Evergreen, or to our PowerPoint rather, and go through the brain injury workflow. So the person record is updated or it's created. If it's not there, it has to be added. The first thing that's done is to create and then complete the level of care, the LOC. A side note, I worked in banking for a lot of years, and LOC was line of credit. It took me a long time to switch to LOC being level of care. Just in case I slip, I wanted to let you know about it. I always mean level of care. There's attachments that you're going to upload to the level of care. There's the eligibility and application packet. This is determining the BI eligibility. And then an offer is made to the person, they accept it, and that's when you move into and complete the Section 18 PCP. After that, that's all completed, there's an initial classification packet. Again, it's bundling forms and attachments. And the classification packet is submitted and then approved, and it's entered into MIMS. From there, MIMS is going to come back and say, everything looks great, and the person can start receiving services. And then every year, of course, you go through the same process. When it comes to your level of care, you're going to find all of the forms start exactly the same way. Now, the level of care captures results from various assessments completed outside of the system. And for every form, when starting it, you have to identify the category and then the form. Now, a cool thing about Evergreen, once you identify the category, the only forms you can select from are forms in that category. So you're not going to have a whole long list. And then you also, on many forms, need to identify the program and the level of care type for the level of care form. And then once you press enter, this opens up the level of care. Now, as I mentioned, this collects information, the results from assessments completed outside the system, their input into the level of care, and the assessment documentation attached. The initial LOC is completed by the BI case coordinator. Now, the input of the results provides easy access for review of these various documents. So the initial one, as I said, is completed by the BI case coordinator. Change and annual LOCs are created and completed by the BI care monitors. Now then, Evergreen, you're going to hear me say this a lot. There's notifications built into Evergreen. So when there's an action you have to complete, you're going to be notified that you have to complete it. You'll be notified when a person is assigned to you. And here you can see within the level of care are the attachment requirements. So let me show you this level of care in the system. And so that you're aware, when I talk about the person record, I'm referring to this all-encompassing record with all these different categories of information. If I am referring to this icon, which is also called record, I will always call it the person record icon. So this has the demographic information, always referred to as the person record icon, and then the person record is all encompassing. I am going to click on this logo to return to the home page because I just want to reinforce and remind you that it's there. I'm going to search for my person. I also want to show you this backwards refresh button. It's a history button. So from here, I can look at all of my recent searches and click to go to my list of results. And this is going to open. I click to open up Evelyn's record. To do the level of care, I'm going to come down on the left navigation menu to the forms, and I'll click on that icon. There's already the HCBS choice. And this is in progress. I think I'm going to go ahead and complete this. And it needs signatures. I'm going to do these very quickly, and I'm going to tell you about them later on, where they'll make a little bit more sense. And I like the electronic signatures, so that's what you're watching me do. I'm going to submit this because it's all ready to go. And it's submitted. So again, back to my forms and plans icon. I have my add new form button. So I'm going to click on this. All of your add new forms, attachments, progress notes, your buttons always in the same place, that upper left corner. I'm going to click on that. And then anything that has a red asterisk with the orange or yellow bar on the left side of the field is a required field. It's required by the system in order to save information on the screen. I would not be able to move forward without completing this. So I'm doing the level of care, which collects assessment information. So I'm going to come down and click assessments. And there's my level of care down at the bottom. Now, if you ever click a category and can't find your form, try another category, okay? Don't hesitate to do that. And I'm going to click next. I need to identify my program. Notice Evergreen knows it's going to be main care section 18, so that's the only choice it gives me. And the type, there is the initial, the change, the annual. Obviously, you have to have an initial before you can have a change or an annual. And I'm going to click Save. You're going to find that all of your forms look the same. In this top header, now there might be minor differences with what's available, but it's essentially the same. Attachments can be added. The status is here, and the status can be used to move the form forward to the next stage in the workflow. One of the things I want to point out, and you will hear me say this repeatedly, because people do make this error, is that close means close. It's like putting a big red void stamp on the form. Once it's closed, the form cannot be used anymore. It's essentially tearing it in half. You'll still be able to view it because we want the paper trail or the electronic trail, but close is void. This is not like Word or Excel where you can close the document or the worksheet and then open it back up. Can't be done with Evergreen. So you want to be really careful with that button. And submit, of course, moves things forward. We have completion requirements, and these are here to help you make sure that you collect all the information that's needed for the form. There's a little plus sign to the left of the title of the section. When I click on that, that's going to tell me what's required. When it comes down to the attachments checklist, look, it tells me exactly what attachments are needed. So there's no guessing on my behalf. There's the expand all, which opens things up. So you would see this category and all the categories in one long form. And then there's the right toggle. You're going to see me continually clicking on this, even though there is only one category, because I have found it's good to click on this and get in the habit. When I don't do that, I forget to click on it when it's so helpful for me to have that menu. So for me, I do it all the time to make it a habit. I'm going to open up my level of care, just click on the section. There's my pencil icon and my pointer finger. So I'm just going to click to engage this. And you can see Evergreen knows the date, so it fills it in. We told it the program, we told it initial, it filled that in for us. The date completed, I'm going to use today's date just to keep things simple. There's that red asterisk. Now moving down, you can see the different assessments, and each one has a red asterisk. Med assessment, it's a drop down. Is the person medically eligible? Today, absolutely. The health and safety score, I'm just going to input a score. Now remember, I know the system. I don't know your business processes. I don't know the assessment. So if that does not make sense, ignore it. The important part is that I input a score. And then the MAPI assessment, I'm going to say yes, requirements are met. So I can click save on this. And in my completion requirements, the level of care information is completed. So now I have to do my attachments checklist. So I'm going to come over here to the attachments icon. And when I click on this, it opens up the attachment screen. Add new attachment is in that upper left corner. I'm going to click on choose file. And I'm going to locate this. It's going to open up my file picker where I'm going to locate the assessment. Click on it, click open, and that adds the assessment to, that attaches the I'm going to start that one over. That adds the attachment. I need to identify the category of the attachment. And notice, Evergreen's going to help me out with limiting my options. The effective date defaults, I can always change that. The end date, this is optional. I want to let you know that if you put an end date in, nothing happens in the system. Okay? It's informational only. So please know that Evergreen is not going to do something based on an end date. And then I need to do my description. I'm just going to be using info today. You don't want to watch me do a lot of typing. And I'm going to click save. So that's one down. I'm going to do my another attachment, add new attachment. I click choose file, selected the attachment, clicked open, and now my next category, I'm going to do the MAPI assessment. Again, I'm just going to fill in my short description and click save. I want to click close here because I can go back and check to see what I need to add here. Well, notice I added 2 forms, but only one of them was a required form. So I still have 2 more forms to go. So I'm going to click attachments again, add new attachment. I click choose file, and now I'm selecting the file. Health and safety, that's one of my required attachments. So I'll click save, and I'm going to do the same thing one last time. Add new attachment, that upper left corner. I click choose file, and I'm identifying and selecting my file. And I need the BI letter of medical eligibility. So again, I'm going to click save. I'm going to now click close. I want to see that I've met my completion requirements and I have them all here. So I didn't point it out, and I will do so on the next form. Initially, this level of care information was just a dotted circle. That meant it wasn't done. Once I completed it, it turned into a green check mark. Everything is all done here. I'm not going to be making any changes. So I can turn around and I can update the status. So I click on the status and I click on submit. I'm asked if I'm sure because once I submit this, I can't make any changes to it. And I click continue. Well, this is now pending review. And the review is by the BI waiver manager. I'm going to go ahead and do the review so you can see what the process looks like, because also when you practice, you're going to put on that BI waiver manager hat and do the review so you can keep practicing and go through the workflow. So I click on this, and of course, pending review, I'm going to review everything. I click on the status and I'm going to say complete. Basically, everything looks good. There are no more status updates. This is fully done. All right, I'm going to come back to my PowerPoint. We're going to now move into the eligibility and application reconsideration packet. So we've captured the medical eligibility and the level of care. So the next step is the application and reconsideration packet, which is going to determine waiver eligibility. Well, again, we're going to start a new form. And remember, packets bundle forms. And the initial one is completed by the BI case coordinator, and annual ones by the BI care monitor. Again, with these, when these are needed, Evergreen is going to send you a notification, so you don't need to guess on it. This started like every other form, identifying the category, the form, then the program, and the type. And here it is open. And there's the title of the form. Here are those dotted circles indicating these items are not done. And there is the level of care form that we're going to attach. Then there's a lot of attachments that we're going to add. Once we have this done and once it's submitted, it moves again to the BI waiver manager, and they're going to determine eligibility. Ideally, the person is going to be medically eligible. If not, that'll be identified here, or there may be a request for clarification. So let's take a look at this in the system. I want to do a search one more time. I don't have a lot of Evelyn's in the system. So I clicked on her record. I'm coming left navigation menu down to forms and plans. Here you can see my completed level of care. The most recent form is always on top. I'm going to click add new form in that upper left corner. My category now is application and classification. And my form is the application reconsideration packet. So I click on that and I'm clicking next. The program, I happen to have multiple selections. I'm going to select main care section 18. And the type, it's an application. The reconsideration is what happens annually. Well, again, you can't do a reconsideration without the application. Here is my form. Again, there's a space for attachments, my statuses. Remember, submit moves it forward. Close is that big void stamp. Here are my completion requirements, and my forms checklist is there. There's the expand all, so I can see everything in one long list. And then my toggle. I'm going to start at the top with application information. This was already captured when starting the form, so Evergreen filled it in for me. I'm going to close this up. That's my preferred way of working. I do better if there's only one section open at a time. Here's my forms checklist. This is telling me exactly what forms I need to add. In this instance, it's only the level of care. And I know it's not attached because there's no information here about it. Now then, I know it's easy to multitask during these things. If you happen to be multitasking, I'm going to ask that you stop that for a moment and watch and listen. Because in this, with the level of care, I'm coming over to the ellipsis. And I click on this to get the link button. And when I click on link, that opens up a list of the level of care forms. And there, at some point, there's going to be multiple ones. So I can come over here and I want to find the one that's completed and active. On this table icon, if I click on this and then click on column select, I can identify that I want to see if the forms are active. If I don't want to see some of these columns, I can also click on them to uncheck them. Well, I only have one form here. The caret with the drop down is just basic information from the form. That doesn't help me out. I have my cancel button. That's not helping me out. So to link the form, I must click on it. I have to tell Evergreen what form I want to act on. And once I did that, then I got the link button in this lower left corner. And now my form has been attached. If I had another form to do, I do the exact same thing, starting with clicking the ellipsis and then clicking link. Well, checking my completion requirements, I have my forms completed. My level of care is attached. So now I have my attachments. And again, there's a list of the attachments that have to be added. So I'm coming over here to the attachments icon, opening it up, and in that upper left corner is the new attachments, and you've seen me do this a couple times now. So I'm just going to go through and add all of these forms. And they have to be added in order to be able to submit this and continue to move forward in the workflow. So you're going to be very familiar with attachments. And this is my last one. There is an option. I can always add additional information if I wanted to. I'm not limited to just those 4 attachments. Okay, I have them. I'm going to click close. I'm going to check my completion requirements. These look good. And so now I'm going to update my status to submit. And I need to add a comment, and I'm going to click continue. So again, this is pending review. I want to be able to move forward in the workflow. So I'm going to put on a new hat, specifically the BI waiver manager, because that's who does the review. That BI waiver manager gets a notification, is going to come in. This message over here, this is a new thing. Okay. And obviously something to be ignored. And I'm going to click start review. I need to tell Evergreen I'm starting the review. And I'm going to click continue. So under review, I'm then going to check everything out. Now, here's where the application reconsideration packet is so helpful. I have my form here. I can click on it. It's opened up, and I can easily complete my review of this. I can see it's a status of complete. To go back to my application reconsideration packet, I just click the back button. I can then go into these attachments, and I can click on an attachment to look at. Now, if I click on the attachment, it is only showing me the information about the attachment. It doesn't show me the actual attachment. To do that, I have to go to the ellipsis. And from here, I can view it, edit. Should you ever have that option, it's not editing the form. It is editing this screen. Or I can download it if I'd like. So I've done my review. Everything looks good. I can identify the person as medically eligible. I might choose not medically eligible, and then I have to input why. I can request clarification. So if I have questions, I'm going to click request clarification. I'm going to input my questions, continue, and then I'm going to update the status. And when I do that, you're going to get a notification. And that notification is going to say, hey, this is back in progress status. And there's some things you have to clarify. You'll make your clarifications, resubmit this, and the review process starts again. In our world, we're all about the happy path, and the person met the eligibility. So I'm clicking that. I need to identify the priority level and then click save. And I'm determining the person is medically eligible. Okay, I'm going to come back to my forms list. And before this, we're going to move into the PCP. And this is where you're going to spend a lot of time. This is where we're going to spend the bulk of our time together. So the person-centered plan for main care, section 18. So one of the great things about the system, there are instances where you're going to need to input information, and that information automatically populates from different areas of the form or different parts of the system. This eliminates your need to constantly re-enter information. Now, remember, to get to this point, the application reconsideration packet's been completed and the person is medically eligible. PCPs do require that the person is assigned to a location and a staff member, and those assignments provide the accountability to ensure the person moves forward through the workflow. The staff assignment also gives the staff member access to all the information that they need from the person record, from the forms, in order to move forward. I mentioned there's lots of help features in the system. Here you see some of them. There's a lot of messages here to help you out as you navigate through the system and complete different actions and forms. Up at the very top is ghost text. And you have this picture that says add strength. It's hard to tell in this, but the text and the strength name comment box is a light gray. And that's to give you guidance on the type of information to be captured. Well, at some point, you're going to start typing in there, and the ghost text is going to go away. So you have this little light bulb that you can click on, and it's going to give you the exact same information. You're going to see messages that are in blue boxes, some that are in pink, some that are in yellow. Please be sure to read these. Some of them are informational. Others, such as this yellow message, is telling you that there is a comprehensive assessment manual in the help center. And I know it's very easy to skip by these and not read them, but please make a point of doing so. Now, the pink message box you see in the middle, this is the error message. And Evergreen is going to tell you with every error what it is that needs fixing, which is fabulous. I was ordering something from Target earlier in the week, needed to fill something out. I missed something, and all I was told was that there's information missing. So I had to scroll all over and keep looking. Of course, I was on my phone where things were teeny tiny. But in any case, there's no guessing with Evergreen. You're told exactly what you have to do. And then in the person-centered plan, you're going to see that, excuse me, that there are what are called person-centered thinking tools. And these are tools that are available. You can upload them. They may be links, and they're going to help you in your conversation with the person. Here, I want to just show you the assignments. There's an assignments icon, and the location assignment is displayed here. And then there is the staff assignment. And when things come to you, that assignment's already made. Now, to begin the PCP form, it starts like the other two forms we've started. That forms icon, we select the category, the form, and then we have some additional information to input. This shows you what the person-centered plan looks like. The other forms that we've started all had a status of in progress when we started them. And in fact, that's how most of your forms are going to look when they are started, in progress. The PCP is a little bit different. The status when this is starting is pending planning team meeting. Once it's updated, and actually okay. Once you have this filled out, you're going to turn around and update it, and you're going to update it for a state review. I'm going to show you in detail how this form gets filled out. There are tools within the PCP, because at some point you're going to be talking with a person and they're going to say, oh yeah, such and such happened. And you're going to think, okay, that's history information that I need for this PCP. But there's also a history icon. Oh my gosh, I don't want to have to type that information in twice. So that's when you would use the Add History button. You click on that, you would add the information. You do have to sync it, and I'll show you how to do that. But then the information is in the PCP and in the history icon within the person record. And the add contact and attachments works the exact same way. So that tool eliminates the need for you to go out of the PCP and go back in. I will also tell you that if you don't use add history and instead just add it to the history icon, it does not flow into the PCP then. And you would have to start your PCP all over. You don't want to have to do that. So let me move this back to our system, and we're going to do the PCP in stages. All right, I'm going to start my PC. Actually, I want to see that attachments are here. The location assignment, I need this, so I'm going to add it. This would not fall to you. It would already be done for you. So I know I have those done. I'm on my forms icon. I'm going to do add new form and case and care plans and forms. And now I'm moving and I'm scrolling down till I find the person-centered plan. And I'm going to click next. I need to identify my program, the PCP type. I only have one option. And then for the effective date range, I'm just going to use today. Again, I'm keeping things simple. Notice the end date automatically populated for me. I don't have to worry about that. I can change this if I'd like. So I want to extend this to 2025, and I'm going to click Save Now. Evergreen caught this. I can't have a PCP for that long a period of time. It's telling me it can't go any more than 1 year. So I'm going to go back and change this to 1 year. I could make it a shorter period if I wanted to, but I'm going to leave it at the default. But it's one illustration of a guardrail that Evergreen has to make sure that I'm able to do things correctly the first time. Okay, this is the PCP. You'll notice there's the PCP tab and the SIP tab, this Service Implementation Plan. This one's blank right now. You're going to see it's populated a little bit later on. The PCP is like an official form. So I have to tell Evergreen that I want to make changes to this form. At some point, again, I can guarantee this because I've done it many times myself, you're going to forget to make that change. And you're going to try to edit some information in Evergreen, and you're not going to be able to do so. Here you can see I have required fields, and you can't tell, but I'm trying to click. So should that happen, that's where I want you to take a deep breath let it out and read your screen. The answer will come to you. If it doesn't, do it again, or even get up and take a brief walk down the hall or whatever. Just get up out of your chair, because doing those items, it's kind of like it loosens things up in your brain. And when you sit back down, read your screen, and it'll be like, oh, I forgot that edit mode. Okay, there's the print function here. You can see different things that can be printed. My ad history, contact attachments. My PCP starts in the status of pending planning team meeting, unlike the other forms that started out in progress. And when I'm ready, I'm going to send this to the next step in the workflow, which is going to be the state review. I have my expand all, which will show me the form in one long list. And then I have my toggle to open up all of the different sections. Now, what I'd like to do, it's 9:15 right now. I'd like to complete the overview and this personal profile section through down to exploration and discovery. Within this, and then we'll take a break. That's what I wanted to really say to you. I want you to notice within this menu, there's a lot of consistency. There's the personal profile. All of the main headers are left justified. And then indented are sections, subsections. Well, a number of sections start with the My Life, the person-centered thinking tools. They're available here with the person profile. They're available with exploration and discovery and My Life Planning, to name a few. So I'm just going to start at the top of this, and I'm turning on that edit mode. You can see I can change the dates here if I'd like. And I'm going to click Save and Next. They look good. I'm going to leave them as is. I'm already down to the personal profile, person-centered thinking tools. These can be downloaded or viewed. And so you'll want to check these out. Now then, completion requirements or required fields. This has a little exclamation mark. That exclamation mark means that this is required by the form. And the reason we have it identified as an exclamation mark instead of an asterisk, something with an exclamation mark, you can go into and out of. Once I have this added, I can click Save. I can go to lunch, or this is a good thing. It's going to tell me that I have a field that I have to complete in order to save the information, specifically the best ways to support me. So I'm going to do this. My finger slipped with that one. Okay, best ways to support me. Here is that question. It's got the exclamation mark, so it's required by the form. It's got the asterisk, which means it's required by the system. And here you can see the ghost text to give me guidance. And there's the light bulb that gives me that example, that same information. And I'm going to click Save and Next. Now I'm moving into My Life Today. I'm just going to type these in. I'm not going to take the time to go through what each of these questions are. When you practice, you can go through and take a look at that. You have also completed PCPs before. You know what it's going to ask. Here I'm down to exploration and discovery. And actually, I think before going into this section, I want to take a break. Let's take 11 minutes and come back at 9:30, because when I go into getting the life I want, that's going to be a long section. So get up, stretch, refill your coffee, tea, whatever, and we will meet again at 9:30, 11 minutes. Okay, welcome back. So just a reminder where we are, we're in the PCP. We've completed the overview, and we also completed the personal profile section. You saw where there were the person-centered thinking tools. We did the about me section, and we did my life today. We're moving into exploration and discovery. Now, again, we have our thinking tools. There's nothing to fill in. I have learned I have to keep scrolling to the bottom, make sure I get to the bottom of the screen. And I have my right pointing caret. I'm going to click on that to move to the next screen. This is getting the life I want. This is some meat of the PCP. And what I mean by that is this is collecting really key information. All 8 domains are listed here. And for each domain, there are 3 questions. What's important to me? What I want to stay the same or maintain? And what I want to be different, either add, change, or stop. So all 3 of those questions are asked for each domain. The what I want to stay the same or maintain, and the what I want to be different, add, change, or stop, those 2 questions become goals. Okay, that's automatic within Evergreen. Now, if anybody is doing the math and thinking, 8 domains, 2 goals each, that's 16 goals. Oh my gosh, 16 goals. Don't worry about that. I'm going to show you how to remove goals, because it's quite possible you're only working on a couple. So the fact that 16 are generated does not mean you have to act upon all 16. It does mean that you have to delete what you are not going to act upon. So, excuse me, I'm just going to start going through this. Down here for what I want to stay the same, when I clicked on the item, it opened it up. Now, there may be multiple items that Evelyn wants to stay the same. So to add another one, I could click the plus, and I have another field I can fill in. If I add it, I have to fill it in. So if I don't want this, I need to delete it. Okay. And again, I'm going to click to open this up. And actually on above, I'm going to change the answer to this. And I'm just going to work my way down here. Hang in there with me while I go through these. Now, if you start the screen and need to stop in the middle of it, at minimum, you have to fill in all of the what's important to me questions because they have the red asterisks. The exclamation mark questions, I can come back to those. For me, I'm going to do it all in one swoop. And there's information to input risks. I'm not going to worry about that because it's not required. Okay, I'm on my last section. I'm scrolling down, there's nothing else, so I'm going to click Save and Next. And here, I could add additional agenda items. You have your required agenda topics. Well, if Evelyn wanted to add additional topics, she could do so. So I'm over here on Getting the Life I Want and other agenda items. It's time to move into my meeting. And I think before I do that, I'm going to come up here to overview. Okay, I missed the message. One of the things that I had meant to point out to you, at the start of the PCP, there's something, there might be a message that says something like, information already here shouldn't be considered part of it. In any case, every time you start a form, you want to double check the profile or the person record icon, check out the health information, make sure it's up to date. Okay, just, it's a good habit to be in, a great best practice. All right, so we've done other agenda items. We're getting ready to move into my meeting. So coming back to the PowerPoint, we need to start scheduling this meeting. And so my meeting and my circle of support are typically populated by the person and the case manager prior to the team meeting. The case manager prepares for the meeting and may fill out a good portion of the plan, hold the meeting while it's in that status, pending planning team meeting. And the team is going to help inform the meeting information, finalize the content and the plan, including identification of services and supports. And within those services and supports, including waiver services. My circle of support are meeting attendees, and this is populated from the person record, the icons, the record icon. And here you can see there is a section to add a meeting facilitator. Ideally, the person's going to do it, but they may want someone else to do it. We are then also going to identify the meeting date, time, and location. And once that's identified here, I love the fact that Evergreen automatically adds it to the person dashboard schedule tile and the meetings and appointments icon in the left navigation menu. So it's transferring data for you. My circle of support. This is the meeting attendees. I mentioned once it comes from the person, or excuse me, from the record icon, specifically the contact section. And they must be added if they're not already in the contacts. There's going to be a button that, remember that my information, that we can use to add additional contacts. And this, just a reminder, attendees cannot be paid to provide services or be employed by the provider. So let's look at this section in the system. Coming over here to meeting information, this is past tense. Did I participate in my meeting? So I'm going to skip over this. We haven't had the meeting yet. So here's the Add a PCP Meeting Facilitator. And I am going to go ahead and add a contact. I have a choice of a staff member or contact. And I'm going to do Frank Jules. And Frank is Evelyn's son. And again, this is not required. I'm showing you how it worked. And I could edit this if I wanted. I could delete it. So again, I need to add the meeting date, time, and location. I'm keeping things simple with today. 10 o'clock a.m. And the person has to agree to this, and I click Save. I can also add follow-up dates and meetings. Now I want to go out of this for just a moment. I want to come up here to the appointments and meetings icon, and I want to show you, here's our person-centered plan, the meeting, and the date and the time. And I can open this up later and I can add additional information if I would like to. So Evergreen automatically populated that. I also want to come up here to the dashboard and show you when we're displaying today's record, the meeting shows. If I had set the meeting for the 28th, I would have to click on the 28th to see the appointment there. I'm going to come back down here to my forms and plans. I'm going to open back up my person-centered plan. I have to remember my toggle. I'm opening my right menu, and I was down at Circle Natural Supporters and Allies. So again, this came from my contacts. And right now, there's Frank Jules and the son. At one point after the meeting, I'm going to identify, did he attend the meeting? Well, I know there's going to be somebody else invited, and that's going to be Jules Hugo, Evelyn's daughter. So I need to add a natural supporter or ally. She's not listed here. So I'm going to click add there. And I have to identify, am I adding a staff member or a contact? I'm going to say contact. Frank is the only option. And he's already added. I want to add Jules. So I'm going to cancel out of this. And I want you to see now how I'm going to add information and use the add contact button. And here's where I'm going to input Jules' name. Other fields are optional, so I'm going to leave that. Her relationship, this is a required field. Now, one of the things that I want to point out, Jules is an emergency contact. One of the options here is child. Well, I am my mother's child. I am also my mother's daughter. As far as Evergreen is concerned, child means somebody young, somebody who is really not involved in this process. If you are adding a contact, and that contact is an adult and participates in this process. You would instead want to do daughter or son, and there's a choice of biological or non-biological. And I'm just going to identify all these different things that she is. And she likes to take care of her mom. And these other fields are optional, so I'm going to leave them blank and click Save. I want to refresh my screen. And then again, I got to turn on my edit mode, my right toggle for that menu. And I'm going to come down to my natural supporters and allies. Here, I now have Jules that I can select. And I will, after the meeting, identify if she attended. Now I'm moving into my vision for a good life. And the person-centered, the My Life person-centered planning tools. Now over here on this right menu, here's where you can see we're getting into the goals, the needs, the strengths, the barriers, and the services and supports. Well, we're going to say now our planning team meeting is in progress. And I'm going to capture some of the information in it. Obviously, you're going to review other information that's input, but we're going to talk about all this other stuff in the meeting. And just pretend we're in the meeting or the meeting just ended and I took lots of notes. We're going to start off within this section. We have been starting at the top and working our way down. This time we're going to do it a little differently. We're going to start out at the services and supports and then work our way up. And actually, what I would like to do, I want to show you how to delete goals. Because remember, I said there's 16 of them, and you want to delete any that you aren't going to work on. Well, you don't need to sit there and watch me delete 14 goals. So I want to show you how to delete it. Then I'm going to move to another person who has a PCP in progress where I've already deleted the goals. So you can see the goal name here, and my cursor is a pointer finger, so I can edit or delete. I'm going to scroll down. I know that this goal info, I want to delete it. I'm going to click on the trash can and scroll down and click continue to confirm, yes, I want to delete it. And then I want to show you one more time. Trash can, I clicked it once, and you can see my message. If I click it again, I just negated what I said I wanted to do. It took that Evergreen thought, okay, I clicked it a second time. I really didn't want to delete this. I am going to now move to Paige Patel. Forms and assignments, her person-centered plan is right at the top. Going to turn on my right menu and come down here to My Life Planning. Here's my goals. I have health. I have an info one that I want to get rid of. I'm clicking here, but my cursor is still a pointer. It's an arrow and not my pointer finger, so I'm missing something. Evergreen's not letting me move forward. So sitting back, taking that breath, reading my screen, I forgot the edit mode. So I engage that. I'm going to again come back to this section. my goals. I want to delete this info one, and I have to scroll down. Okay. Don't forget to scroll down. So I have advocacy, what page would like to change. I have one more that I want to get rid of. Again, I'm scrolling up. I have advocacy and I have health, what she wants to maintain. That's perfect. That's exactly what I wanted. So now I'm going to move down here to services and supports on this right menu. And here, I'm going to click add service or support. And when I click on that button, I have the option of a number of different selections here. I'm going to add a community and natural resources support. And I want to show you this so you can see that it's different from the waiver support. Evergreen is going to give me fields to complete based on the type of service or support. And this is going to be supported by Jules Patel. She's going to provide transportation. I need to add information there. The dates default, but I can change them. And then I no longer need support when. So that service and support is there, and I can edit it or I can delete it. I want to add one more. And here I'm going to add a waiver service. So again, if you're multitasking, I'm going to ask that you put that aside for now and just watch me on this one. Watch me for a little bit longer on this. There's lots of ins and outs on this that I want to be sure you get. You can see there's different fields here. I have the waiver service. I'm clicking, I can't do anything with the provider screen. I need to add the service, so I click search. I can't input anything in that field, so I click search. I have to input the service and then click search. I do have advanced search, so I could add more search criteria. I'm just going to stick with that. I have to click this link button to add it, and it's then displayed. The rate, unit, amount, and type automatically fill in. Evergreen does that for me. The frequency defaults based on what's already input for that service in Evergreen. I just identify the number of the hours per week or invoice amount. And then I'm going to randomly select something here. I'm scrolling down the support that's needed. I need to identify the level. And I have a couple more questions here. Again, I no longer need supports when. Now, when it comes to a waiver service, at some point, we are going to invite a provider to we're going to invite a provider to complete a SIP, the service implementation plan. So we're going to invite that provider to tell us how they are going to support the person to ensure they live the best life possible. And I'm going to just click save. I'm going to leave that for now. So I did my services and supports. I'm coming up to my barriers. Well, there's nothing here. I do have a add barrier here. So I click that button. Again, there's ghost text to give me an idea. And I'm just going to save that. Page has only one barrier. I'm going to do strengths. Again, I just click the button to add a strength. I'm going to add a second strength. And I'm labeling these so that we'll be able to see exactly what each one is when it comes time to put everything together. And so I've done services and supports, I've done my barriers, I've done strengths, and I'm now going to do my needs. And again, I have a button to add a need. And I'm going to input the need name, the description. I need to identify the domain. Is this a resource need? And I'm going to say no. The status of needs defaults to unmet. Now, what does unmet mean? I have this little, again, light bulb. So this goal, it's unmet if it does not help the person or it's not addressed by a service or support that's been identified in this PCP. So there's an explanation of exactly what met, unmet means. Well, we're going to met this. I don't need to describe something. I'm going to click save, and I want to add one more need. Again, I'm randomly selecting things, so it may not always make sense. All right, my needs are done. I can't review a goal because I haven't really done anything with my goals. So on this right menu, I'm coming up to my goals. And again, my pointer finger is here for my first goal to health maintain. I need to identify what my, as page, what my desired outcome is. Identify the domain. And when I click on it, it's in the available column. I click to check the box that engage this right pointing caret, and I click on that, and that moves it over to selected. If I don't want something here, I can then click on it. That engages the left pointing caret, and I can move the item back. Then now I'm down at strengths. In my available strengths, I want to identify what strength, and I can select one or I can select both. And barrier, yes, this barrier does apply to this. Now here are the needs. And the needs, there's two things to understand with needs. One, each goal must have a need. Pretty cool. Makes sense. It's a required field. Each goal must have a need. But the flip side of that is each need must be linked to a goal. So if you have 5 goals, but 6 needs, all 6 of those needs must be in those 5 goals. Not all together, but between those 5 goals, they have to have all 6 of those needs. And then the services and supports, again, I have what's available, and I just click to move them both over. Milestones. So I'm inputting the milestone, and the start date defaults. I'm going to input the target date. Now, I just added services and supports. Why am I adding it again? Well, if you look here, I am up here in this little box. This little box is specific to the milestone. So I am identifying for this milestone which of these service or supports applies to the milestone. And I've identified that. The goal defaults to new, and I'm going to leave it there. Okay, and that's all done. So now I want to move to my second goal, and I'm going to click to engage it. Again, and I'm going to just do select a domain. Only one strength applies this time, so I'm moving it from available to selected. This barrier applies, so I checked on it. I clicked the caret to move it to selected. Needs. I'm going to say just one applies and move it over. And services and supports, again, just one applies, so I'm moving it over. I need to add my milestone. And again, my target date for this one. And what service or support applies to this milestone. So I move that over. Okay, so I started down at service and supports, and I worked my way all the way up to goals. So this looks great. My meeting has ended. I've captured all of this information. So I'm ready to submit this for state review. So I just want to go back and do a review. Within this, we started with goals. And we had one need has to be, and one service, I didn't mention that, one service has to be linked to the goal. It makes sense. We then add the services and supports, or we looked at the goals. The needs, you had to manually enter the needs. And remember that initial status was unmet. And you checked in with the needs and updated them as needed during the team meeting. And then you also manually added your strengths, your domains, your strengths, and your barriers. So that section's all done. I want to move into the service implementation plan. So in just a moment, when I go back to this, I'm going to submit this for state review. And I'm going to put on a state reviewer hat, and I am going to review the PCP. And when I'm done with that, I'm going to submit this for provider selection. Now then, what happens is that the case manager gets a notification, and they are going to be told that this has been moved into this status. They are going to turn around and on the service and support tab, at the bottom, they are going to identify who the provider is going to be. Who's the provider that's going to be invited? Once the case manager adds that provider, the provider gets the notification that there's a SIP waiting for them. They're going to access the SIP and complete it. Now, they will only see the SIPs for their locations. And here what you can see what the SIP looks like. The goals and service details came from the PCP. They cannot be edited. And then the SIP implementation plan details, that's where the provider identifies what their strategy is going to be to provide services and supports to the person. And at the very bottom, they have to check this box to say that, yes, they are agreeing that they're going to provide the services that are reflected in this plan. So back to our system. I'm here. I'm ready to update this to pending planning team meeting. Before we do that, I want you to notice we don't have any completion requirements here. We've had them on the other forms. I want to show you what happens. So I'm updating the status to submit for state review. And I am submitting this. Okay, and so this is now ready for review. And you can see that there's a status here, or it can be closed. Again, the reviewer has to click to engage the edit mode because they can take a look at all of the different sections. And once the reviewer has completed this, they're going to click on State Review and identify the services in this PCP have been reviewed and are approved for the service implementation planning, and say yes. The approval date defaults. Pretty cool. And I could say save and next. Okay. Now, your medication review dates are optional unless it's a 90-day, the 90-day review. Your business process around that remains the same. So I'm updating the status now, submit for provider selection. And I'm saying continue. So the case manager got a notification to say, hey, this has been approved. It's ready for a provider selection. So that care coordinator, and if I have said case manager, I apologize for that. It was a slip of the tongue. The care coordinator is going to open this back up. They're going to turn on the edit mode. They're going to come down to the service and support. And on here, they're going to open up the waiver service or self-directed. There's still nothing I can put in provider, but I'm coming down, way down here to the bottom. And service implementation plan provider invitations. So here I identify the provider or providers that the person would like to invite to submit a SIP. So I'm clicking add provider. Again, I can't type anything in, so I click search. And I'm going to input my provider, Baxter, and click search. Here I have one item, and I'm going to click link. I have to tell the system I want to link it. If I wanted to invite another provider, I have this plus button. And again, I can click on this. If I don't want to invite another provider, I need to delete that. Otherwise, it would be a required field. So I'm going to click save. The provider gets a notification now that they have been invited to submit a SIP. Within the provider's notification, it accesses their location. So for our provider, I want to access the location. We do not have notifications set up in the training environment. It would be way too chaotic. So I'm going to click to open this up. And you don't need to remember this. They're going to access forms. And here they have the one from today. They're going to open it up. Now, one of the things that I want you to notice on here, or know, the provider is going to have access to the goal information and any other information that they need in order to make and create an informed SIP. They do not have access to everything because they have not been selected by the person, and we have to maintain the person's privacy. So they have enough information, but not all of the information. They too have these tools at the very top, including their completion requirements. So I'm going to click on edit mode. And I want to open up the right side. Now I'm going to go through this in a little more depth. I know that you won't do it, but you may get a call from a provider. And so on this first thing with the SIP template, the SIP can be completed electronically here, or there can be a paper form submitted as an attachment. We are not really highlighting that to the providers. And the reason for that is if they attach a paper form, a paper SIP, when this comes back to you, guess who gets to add it to Evergreen? Yeah, that would be you. And you don't want to have to do extra work. Use of electronic means is a good thing. So we're not telling them about it really, but they'll be able to see that it's here. I'm going to click Save and Next. Again, here's all my goals and service details. And there, as I scroll down, you'll notice there is nothing here that I can edit because all of this came from the PCP. So I'm going to click the caret to the facing to the right, because here's the SIP implementation plan details. Here's where the provider inputs all their information. There's information at the top for them. They click to engage this. Again, identify the purpose of the support, how the services will assist the person. There's goal progress here, questions that have to be answered. And then the service or the implementation strategy is not required. So I'm just going to click Save on this. And then here I have my next goal, advocacy. Again, I'm doing the same thing. Inputting the information for this particular goal and clicking Save. I'm down at the bottom. So now, lastly, I have to check the box to say this signifies that my agreement to provide the services reflected in this plan. And I click Save. I'm going to turn around up here and check my completion requirements. And the service implementation plan details. I'm still missing something. So I'm going to come up here to the top, and I'm just going to open things up and look at it. I have my check marks there. Everything's been completed. Let's come down to this goal. Everything's completed here. The only thing that wasn't completed was the implementation strategy. So I'm going to go ahead and add that. And my little exclamation mark turned into a check mark. And I'm going to do the same thing down here. Okay, I'm going to check my box again and click Save. My completion requirements have all been met. So should a provider ever call you and say, I can't send this back to you, it won't let me, your question would be, did you add the service implementation details? This is all done, so I'm ready to update the status to submit for review. And click Continue on this. So this comes back to you, the care coordinator. How do you know it's there? you get a notification. So I'm going to put on my care coordinator hat, and I'm going to come back into my forms, open this up. I'm going to click on my edit mode. And notice there's completion requirements here. Now, the reason they weren't there before is because the PCP had to go through that approval process, and that provider information was needed. If there had been completion requirements set up before those occurred, you would not be able to move forward. You have to get those out of the way before you can have the completion requirements. So with this, I'm coming down to my service and support, and I'm opening up the waiver service, because in the SIP, I took a look at that. I had a conversation with Paige about everything that was in there and said, Paige, do you want to use this provider? She said, yes, I love that plan. So in order to select the provider, the service or support is opened up. In this provider dropdown, I have to select the provider. And once I do that, I can save this. And I'm going to come down. That takes care of that service or support. So I invited the provider to submit a SIP. The provider did submit the SIP. I had the conversation with the person and then identified who the provider would be. Now I want to, before I start moving into the rights, supports, and modifications, I want to take a moment and point out the completion requirements. I have a lot of things that aren't done here. So I just want to go back, and here for my meeting, I'm missing meeting information. So I click on that in the right menu. How did the person feel about the meeting? And I just fill all of that in. Make sure that you scroll down. I can't tell you how many times I've missed questions because I've forgotten to scroll down. Okay, that's looking good. My circle of support, my natural supporters and allies. So again, I'm coming down to that on the right menu. I have them listed. I need to identify if they were at the meeting. And I'm going to say yes. And I'm going to scroll down to, there was Jules, and she is the only person listed for Paige. Remember, we had two people for our previous person. For Evelyn, for Paige, we only have one. Again, I'm coming to my completion requirements. I'm now at my goals. So Evergreen, again, has these guardrails. It's going to help you do things right the first time. And you will want to check in with these completion goals because they're there to help you out. So I'm going to open up the goal. And let's see what I'm missing here. I want to check and make sure. Ooh, I don't have any needs selected for this one. So I'm going to select the need. It happens to be both of them and move them over. And I'm going to click Save. And since I'm here, I'm just going to check the other goal as well. That was the same one. I'm going to scroll down some more. Here's the second one. And this one has a need, so it's all good to go. Remember, every goal must have a need and a service. Every need must be associated with a goal. So now I'm ready to continue to move forward. I am going to identify, just do a goal review, check in with Paige about her satisfaction or when these check-ins will occur. And I'm going to just check in, were there change in waiver services? The yes defaulted. I'm just going to put in details. Remember, I said the medication review dates was optional. And so now I'm ready to move to the rights, supports, and modifications. So I'm going to come back to the PCP. And Pauline, it looks like you're the only person on here. Would you like a break right now, or shall I move forward? You can use the Q&A icon in your Zoom toolbar to let me know. Just submit a yes or a break or go forward as a question. You're going to use it as a statement. Okay, I think I'm going to go ahead and give you a 5-minute break because we've taken in a lot of information. It's 10:21. We will come back at 10:26. Okay, welcome back. We are going to move into the HCBS rights modification addendum. So again, I want to move to my PowerPoint to give you some information. You currently have this form, and it's used when there's an assessed need due to challenging behavior. And these are the behavior regulations 14-197 CRM Chapter 5 Behavior Regulations. It identifies all your compliance requirements. The HCBS rights modification form applies to these restrictions. And this does not replace your safety device plan. So I just wanted to make sure that I called that out to you. So basically, we're going to do this form as part of the PCP. Now, the person can consent to it or not consent. So in just a moment, you're going to see a decision tree, and that's going to help identify if there's a need for this. And if so, you're going to do and complete this form within the PCP. And ideally, the person or their representative agrees to it. If they don't, that's when you would do a positive support plan or a behavior management plan, a BMP. One of the great things is once you do this form in the first PCP or whichever PCP, it shows up in your subsequent PCPs. So here we are showing you as if you were starting the form from scratch. You will never do that in this one instance. Here it is. We are in now the person-centered plan, and under the rights, supports, and modifications, where we're going next, we're going to see an Add HCBS Rights Modification button. So back to Evergreen, we're in our PCP. Well, we're in our PCP. We have moved down to the rights, supports, and modifications section, and we're in the active plans and addendums. And you can see with the positive support plan, there isn't anything here. I'm not able to add it. There's not an HCBS rights modification. And again, I can't add it, but I'm going to click my Save and Next. Here, I'm focused on the HCBS rights modification, and here are the restrictions that might apply. There's an example of documenting the assessed need, so that, again, you're not guessing, you have an example. Well, if this form is needed, click on the Add HCBS Rights Modification. This opens up the form. And here I have to select the modification. And then I have a notice that comes up and reminds me where this is from. I need to input my reasons. This question, does justification of need for HCBS modification include dangerous or maladaptive behavior? And I'm going to say no on this. Does the person consent, or their guardian consent or not consent? And one of the things on this, does the justification of need for HCBS rights modification include dangerous or maladaptive behavior? My inclination, and again, remember, I don't know your business processes. My guess would have been to say yes, since this is about restricting behaviors. If I selected yes, though, I would not be able to add the provider. So the answer to this question must be no. If yes is selected, it means a different type of form is needed. So I'm going to click Save. I could add an additional form if there was an additional restriction to identify. And I'm going to click my right pointing caret. And here now you can see I have the button for the provider assignment. And I'm just going to select something. And a lot of my drop-down menus, if you notice, Evergreen limited me to my selection based on what's already been input. The provider details are there. They're already in the system. And then it's a choice of who is going to contact the provider contact to receive this form. You would have names here. For our purposes, and when you're practicing, the person to receive this, let me scroll up, is provider staff 1. That's the name of your person. And I'm going to click Save. So I'm down to there. I'm just about to the meeting summary. Let me check my completion requirements. Meeting summary, cool. So now it's time to start wrapping up the PCP. There's the summary of the meeting and then the summary of the plan, okay? And the summary of the meeting is a check-in with the person to make sure that they understood what occurred during the meeting and they're happy with it. And the summary of the plan is the check-in about the overall plan and making sure the person's received the necessary information. And you can see for both of these, there's a survey for the person, but then there's also signatures that are required. And here's where, when adding the signatures, you have to identify the type, and you have a drop down to select. If you select written, you would then, just like when you added an attachment, use that choose file to locate and add it. Or you could select e-signature, which one then uses the mouse pad, or excuse me, the cursor to write in their signature. Our focus today is written and e-signature. So again, we're going to move this to this system. And I have this done. So I'm just going to click again that right-facing caret, my meeting narrative. I'm going to add that. And again, here's the questions, the survey for the person. And Paige was very happy with everything. And I'm at the signatures. Self, because this is all about Paige, this is self-signature. I'm going to check that I affirm the signature has been verified. I need to select the type, and I'm going to select a written signature. I have to choose the file. Again, that opened up my file picker. That signature has to be on a document somewhere on your computer or accessible through your computer. And open it, and it's here. And then I need to type in her name, the date it's signed. Now then, one of the things that I want to tell you about this identifies the location of the signature. Even though this works like an attachment, you won't find the attachment in the system. This is telling you where to locate it, okay? It's not going to show up in your assignments tab. And that's because of the type of document, the signatures on it, that sort of thing. So I'm going to click save on that. And that's all done. So now I'm scrolling down and it's the case manager, time for my signature. And I'm going to do an e-signature. So when I selected that, I got this open field and I'm using my mouse to sign. I could clear it if I need to re-sign it. Trudy Care Coordinator. And I'm going to click save. And I'm going to scroll down. There's no other signatures required. I'm clicking my caret. Oh, I'm on the SIP person survey. And again, Paige is very happy. The date defaulted. I need the case manager attestation. And I just click save and next. So if you notice, there's a lot of rhythm. There's a lot of consistency in the system. So again, we're to signatures. And first is Paige's signature. The signature type, I'm going to do an e-signature this time. And then I need to print her name in here. And click save. And you've seen me add a lot of attachments, which is why I'm going for e-signatures here. I need to add my signature. Again, I'm going to do an electronic one. And then there's no other additional signatures required. I almost didn't check my completion requirements, but I'm glad I did because I have attachments that I have to add, and it's that required PCP agenda. So I started to go over here to look for my paperclip icon, and it's not here. So there's been a couple times, this is where I've had to do that, sitting back, taking that deep breath, reading my form, saying, oh, it's in the information. So I clicked on that button and I come down to attachments. I have my add new attachment button. I'm choosing my file again. The category, I'm selecting the PCP agenda. I can, of course, add other documents if I would like to. It's there, so I'm going to click close. And now I can set this plan as complete. And I'm going to say continue. Now, a couple things happened when I set this plan to complete. It automatically generated a prior authorization. Okay. That service authorization, it was automatically generated when I hit plan complete. I'm going to come back to my forms list to show that to you. You can see that prior authorization is now here. It's also the HCBS rights modification was then generated as a separate form. The provider's going to get a notification that they have to complete this. So that is all about the PCP. You took in a lot of information. And so I highly encourage you, we are recording this, to watch the recording. If nothing else, watch it about the PCP section. It's going to take us a couple days. Jack has to make a couple edits, and her computer's a little slow sometimes because this takes a lot of energy. And so definitely watch that section. So now I want to move into the classification packet. And what we have left to cover is the classification packet, the 90-day review or an annual PCP. I'm just going to show you how to start that. And then the BI assistive technology before then we start to talk about next steps. So the classification packet. Packets, they bundle forms. And this packet determines the waiver program eligibility, the classification, and it's bundling the LOC and the PCP. Now, there are different programs that can be selected. We are sticking with BI Section 18. Now, before you can do this, your level of care, your application packet, and your PCP must be completed first. And you have here, you'll see there's that basic information and then the list of forms. So let me show you this one in the system. Upper left corner, I'm going to click Add New Form. Application and classification. Well, we're doing a classification. And my second option is classification reclassification. And I click on Next. I'm going to select my program and that it's an initial classification. Have to have the initial before you can have the reclassification. And I'm clicking Save. Again, the top of it looks like your other forms. There's that status. When we're done, we'll submit it. But remember, close is that big red void stamp. You can't do anything with the form. There's the completion requirements. And of course, the expand all if I wanted to see everything in one long list, and my toggle. I'm starting at the top again. Here, there's information that I had just input. So it's already been added here. There is now, the next section is the forms checklist. And this is telling me what I have to add. Now remember, to do this, it's not that I click on the line item. I have to click on the ellipsis and then click link. All of my forms would be listed here. Again, the PCP has to be plan completed. It has to be active. So I'm using my table icon, clicking on that, clicking column select, and I want to click active. And I'll click back on the table to collapse that menu. Because there's going to be a number of PCP plans that may have been completed and therefore in the status plan complete. The one you want to add is the active one. Now in this ellipsis, I don't have anything to link it. So instead, what I'm going to do is click to select this form. That gave me the link button, which I then click on. My form is now here. Again, to link the level of care, I'm going to click on link, the ellipsis, click on the link option. I'm going to click on the form to tell Evergreen this is the one I want. That gave me the link button. So I'm going to check my completion requirements and everything is here. So I'm ready to update this and submit it. Okay, now it's pending review. It's moving on for review. There's a notification that's gone out to alert the staff member that they need to review this. So they get the notification, they're going to click to open this up. They need to tell Evergreen that they're starting the review. And then the status is under review. And you can see they're going to be able to classify or request a clarification. So I'm going to review this. And I can click on the form. It's going to open the level of care. When I click back, it returns me to the classification reclassification packet. The completion requirements have all been met. So I could, as the reviewer, again, request clarification. And in that instance, a notification goes out to the care coordinator to let them know that there's a clarification needed. The necessary changes would be made and the packet resubmitted. And again, it would go through the review process. For us, it looked great, so we're going to classify. And we're identifying the date and we're clicking save. Am I sure? Yes. And this person is now classified. So that was a really short one. I want to move us now into the 90-day review or annual review. We are not going to do the whole PCP. I want to show you how to get it started. And the reason for that is it's not an intuitive process. So when you have this, it's a very specific process, as I mentioned. You get a notification that this is coming due. And so there's no surprises. You don't have to mark a calendar or anything else. You will get a notification. If you're ever curious, there's a query about it, which you can look at. Again, look at the queries microlearning if you'd like a refresher. And so we are actually going to access a list of PCP forms. And from that, we're then going to click revise. And the reason we're doing it that way is because we are telling Evergreen, this is the specific PCP I am revising. There's information from the, what I'll call original, that's going to flow into this revised. Now, you do have to identify if this is an annual or if it's a change. And again, there's the initial plan, you then have your annual plan, and you have your change. Now, if it's a change, there's multiple reasons that can be selected, or you can select one or multiple ones. And this is information that's going to help inform Evergreen about what information should flow forward, what information should not. So here's a list. I do not expect you to remember this. and suggest that you not try to because it's an extensive list, and Evergreen is going to help you out. There's information from the PCP that's going to be revised that's copied forward into the change PCP or the annual PCP. Now, these are the fields for specifically a change. And you can see that the change reason, it's copied forward, but it's editable. The effective date range, it's copied forward, and it's system populated. Some of the things that copy forward are editable. Some of the things are not. For example, summary of plan, signatures, it's copied forward, but it's only read only, and then you have to recapture signatures. There's copy forward that's editable. There's some fields that are totally cleared out. So basically, you're going to start at the beginning of the PCP, and you're going to go all the way through it. And of course, within this PCP, it's very easy to say, oh, I know everything about the person. I know all of this is the same. Well, actually, you still want to check in with the person because things change within their life. And working in that bank, if you remember, I mentioned that I'd say to somebody, is all your information the same? And they would say, yes. And it's when I had them look at it that they would say, oh, I changed my address. Our lives are hectic. We forget when things occur. So definitely review all the information with your person. So I want to show you this in the system. So I'm back at my forms list, and it's a PCP that I want to revise. There's only one PCP form here. If I click on the ellipsis, I have options here. It is only in the sandbox that you will see archive and remove. You will never see them. So, and I don't want to open the record because it's closed. I just got it done, or 3 months ago, I got it done. Instead, now I have to target and pull out all of the PCPs. So I'm coming up here to this forms icon. And when I click on this, this is a list of all of the forms that have been completed. So when I click on person-centered plan, this is going to bring all of the PCPs together. It's be a list of just PCPs. Well, I only have one. And of course, it needs to be the active one. So again, I went to my table icon, my column select, and I clicked active. Now, one of the reasons I have to keep doing that is because my Zoom is up very high, so everybody can see my screen. So here's the one that's completed and it's active. And when I click on this, I have a revise button here. Now, should you need to revise something and the person has multiple PCPs, if you click on revise and that button, that option isn't there, that is not a PCP that can be revised. So check another one. So I have my revise button and I clicked on that and I'm asked, am I sure I want to revise this? So I need to identify the type, and I'm just going to do a change today, and I'm selecting some random things. And this has opened up my PCP. Let me see what's in this sync. I'm going to close that. Okay, I need to enable my edit mode. And again, I'm going to open up that right thing. Notice my status, pending planning team meeting. And I'm just going to go through this and complete it in the same way as I have in the past. So that is the PCP. The last thing I want to talk about is the BI assistive technology form. Now, it's the last thing. There's actually two things. One is this, and then once I'm done with this, Jack is going to put a survey link in the chat. You have an icon for chat because I'm going to ask you to complete that. I'm coming back to my forms. Here's my whole list. And checking my notes, felt like for a minute I was missing something with you, but I'm not. So I'm going to go to add new form. My category, I'm going to try case and care plans. And I'm not finding anything for assistive technology. So I'm going to try again. And let me try service authorizations. And there it is. And the way I remember that it's service authorizations are about money. And the assistive technology form is about money. But let me tell you this before I go into creating it. So the purpose of this form is to request and receive authorization for assistive technology for persons on the BI waiver. For all of your forms, I didn't really demonstrate it, but there can only be one in progress form at a time. Evergreen is going to help you manage that. You can request multiple items on the same form. So now let me show you the form. So again, add new form. My category, service authorization, because this is associated with money, and my BI assistive technology. Am I sure? Yes, I am. So again, the top of the form looks like all others. I'm just going to open up this toggle, and I do have my completion requirements. The overview, Evergreen knows this, so I don't have to type it in. The request, I have a button to add the request. So I clicked that, and here I have to put the item, the cost, and the recommendation. And that's completed. I can edit this or I can delete it if I need to. I can also add an additional request. I'm going to collapse these two and now click on funding information. So here, does the person have sufficient available funds to cover the cost? If I click yes, I don't have any more fields. If I click no, it's the same thing. I'm going to click no. And from here, I have to add my attachment, the BI assessment. So I clicked my paperclip icon, add new attachment. I'm going to come up. I clicked my choose file to get into my file picker. Open, I need to attach or identify the category. Description and save. And my form is now completed. So, and you can see from this little circle, I have one attachment on here. So I'm going to submit this. And when I click continue, it's submitted. And then this gets reviewed by finance. They're going to take a look at it. They're going to say, okay, yeah, we should do this. I'm going to click continue. Oh, I'm missing a completion requirement. Oh, so I have my item requested, but there's a field now for a decision. So I have the edit decision button. And here's where finance is going to put in their approval. And they're going to say yes. Now my completion requirements are done. And it's submitted, and I'm going to say complete. And again, that approval is done by finance. All right, we're not done yet, so please don't go anywhere. Some next steps for you. One of the things I want you to do is practice in the sandbox. Click through different things, complete the exercises in your packet. Remember that packet gives you all of your login information. With the training and the sandbox, excuse me, I was using old terminology. Please make sure that you use only your person. If you use somebody else's, you're messing them up. The other request I have, and I feel like I should never have to say this, but whenever I don't, I have to go in and fix something. Please keep whatever you input as professional. You would be amazed at the number of times I have had to go in and remove something because it's not been professional. But the key here is to practice. Lastly, just remember with the sandbox, you have more access than you would typically have because you need to work through workflows to see how everything works collectively and move from one step to the next. You are going to watch emails, particularly that week or two before go live, and certainly rewatch the micro learnings, watch the video of this. You want to tie up any of your loose ends in the system and finalize and finish anything that's in progress that you can. The system at 5 p.m. is you're no longer going to be able to enter anything. And this is on Friday, January 12th at 5 p.m. So have everything completed before then. Obviously, this means planning ahead. You may want to start your planning ahead now because I know there's a lot of people off next week. And this way, when you walk in for the new year, you already know what you're going to do. But again, there are Q&A sessions in January. There are also the business process trainings in January. So please sign up for those as well. There's the micro learnings, and Jack has put into the chat. Jack, would you add the link for the micro learnings? She has added in the chat the link to your FAQs recordings. These are on the project website. And you can email questions to evergreen.dhhs@maine.gov. And lastly, we have our survey. So this is in the chat. It is you have your FAQ link, the email for questions, and then your survey link in the webinar chat. So click on that, please. Take a moment and complete it. It's a few questions. It helps us out more than you know. We do read these. We do make adjustments based on your feedback. So we'd like to hear what you liked about the training and if you have suggestions for changes we might make. I do ask that you read the scale as you make your ratings. It goes from strongly agree to strongly disagree. And there's been instances we've gotten a survey back that says all strongly disagree. And that obviously concerns us. And we go further down and read the comments, and it becomes very evident that it was actually a matter that somebody did not read the scale and they likely mixed it up. So please be sure to check that out. Lastly, I want to say thank you for joining us. I know that things have been, um, it's an understatement to say it's been challenging. I can't even imagine what it's been with the power outages, the storm, all the damage from it. So you took time out of your day to be here with me, and I truly appreciate that. So I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and I hope you have a good weekend and finish filling out your survey.